Hi, давай, 3, 2, 1, good morning, good afternoon, good evening everyone, wherever you are, and for some ungodly reason you still have a boredom to watch this channel. I'm again at V's place. Thanks a lot for taking the time to talk to me. Welcome to my show once again. Say hi.
Hello. I was waiting for you to finish.
Well, I did. I guess let's go straight with the only question that came from the donor circle, and then we'll switch to corruption. How did marriage change your religious views?
It's interesting because I changed my religious views before marriage.
Really?
Yeah, and Richard Dawkins, like one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, he had similar views like mine. And that is the fact that while the existence of God, he doesn't believe in it, like he doesn't believe in the supernatural, the philosophy of Christianity isn't necessarily bad.
No one said it is.
Well, most atheists do
I think Sam
it's...
Harris did, but Sam Harris is an idiot, so there's that.
It has fundamental roots in the Greek philosophy of Stoicism. And many teachings and philosophies are really great. I even said on my channel that people who have depression or certain issues, they shouldn't go to a psychologist.
You should go to a priest.
Yeah, not necessarily a Christian one. Like find any religious leader, whether it's an imam, a priest, a rabbi, I don't care, right? Just find one. And the reason for it is that the psychologist makes money when you go and you have a session. So his interest is that you keep going over and over again. They even say that it's not for healing, it's a process, right? Meanwhile, the priest just wants to give you advice so you can fuck off. Like he has no interest in like spending time with you. And many...
the incentive is the other way around.
Yeah. Like many religious people, they deal with this, like they're the community leaders, if you will. And they deal with many problems from the community, divorces, depression, like all sorts of stuff.
Money arguments.
Yeah, so if you go to a priest and you're like, tajna spovedanie, right? You go to him.
The confession.
Yeah, the confession. And you're saying that you're depressed and you have issues. He may give you like genuine advice, like not just, something that has, he's going to have Jesus and God there. But like some of the advice that he can give you is really good. And it's, in my opinion, it's free. So it's a lot better than going to a psychologist. And it can definitely help, even if you're an atheist. Like you don't have to believe in God in order to benefit from the wisdom.
Fair enough. Although I would argue that they're not equal. What is to say? Orthodox priests are married. Therefore, they can give family advice in a much more genuine way
than a Catholic.
Than Catholic ones. Yeah, nothing necessarily against papists, although...
Oh, I have everything against papists. Did you see the recent Pope? Jesus fucking Christ. He even had like recently, I don't know if you followed it, but like he had the meeting with Marxists and he was basically saying... Again? No, like it wasn't like a Marxist leader now. Was like, I don't even know where he picked them up from. Like Marxist community leaders, I think, like, right? So activists. And he was basically saying that Marxism comes from Christianity and there should be friendship and shit. And it's like,
that's a straight up reactionary argument, actually. But
is it? I mean, like, you look at history, like who murdered the most Christians? Well, I think it's the Muslims and then it's the Marxists. I don't know who wins.
Probably if the French Revolution had withstood a bit more time, they would have been able to compete. But yes, no, the reason I'm saying is that there used to be, I think they disappeared recently, although maybe they stopped talking, not necessarily disappeared. There was a neo-reactionary circle that used to say that Marxism is essentially a deviation of Christianity and it has its roots in Christianity. The reason I laugh at such argument is because we can find evidence of effectively Marxist economic policy in first century China. Right, so 19 centuries
it's older,
before.
Yeah, it's older than it got the name. Sargon thinks that Marxism has roots in liberalism and some nonsense.
Again, there is Marxist economic policy in first or second century China.
Yeah, that's my argument.
So that's 15 centuries before the very idea of liberalism. We had no idea how to spell liberalism.
Yeah, the idea that Marxists are doing this ideologically, right? Like they're doing like no, it's like a power grab. It's
power grab, and it's also it relies on a perversion of a human instinct. As civilization, we figured out that we have an instinct for violence, and we started building institutions around managing the instinct for violence, right? But we haven't figured yet, as a civilization, that we also have an instinct for fairness and equality that can easily be perverted, just like the one for violence, And we have to build institutions to keep that in check. And we haven't. Quite the opposite. We let it run loose. And that's how we got Marxism. And
How would an institution that keeps fairness and equality in check would look like?
well, there are two successful known versions. One is monarchy, particularly semi-constitutional monarchies, where the king is ruling by the grace of God and retains veto powers at least sometimes, not always. So it's not an absolute monarchy, but it's also not a constitutional monarchy.
Like Britain?
No, Britain is a constitutional monarchy. Present-day Jordan. Jordan, for instance, the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan is a semi-constitutional monarchy. The king has veto powers
And they keep,
on certain things.
They keep fairness in check?
It does. It does. It's a far less socialistic place than even its immediate neighbors. So that's one example. Another example, of course, it's the liberal republic. I mean, the founding fathers of the United States wrote at length about this. Let's keep democracy in check, because if we don't, then
We end up like Europe.
yeah, we end up like Europe, and we end up with people voting at the expense of someone else's money. They'll vote themselves benefits.
It's interesting because they gave up that idea, and now it's like protecting our democracy.
Yes,
right? Which
yes.
is,
Well, at least one of the political parties did.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the case that it will always be like that, but yes, for now it is like that. It's not the first time when the ideals of the founders have been perverted, and it's definitely not the last time. I keep joking that if the founding fathers were to be teleported into 2024, they would be surprised that at least portions of their document still works.
Yeah, well, maybe they would be like, we actually wrote shall not infringe. Like, what more could we have added?
Although in practice, probably there's more Second Amendment observance today than in 1791.
Right.
Because in the 1700s, we had cities that banned weapons and confiscate them at the entrance of the city. Today, that's unconstitutional. So, trade-offs.
Yeah.
Some things have actually gotten better, but there's that. So you changed your. So what? Then what made you change that? Only this, that there is some utility for religious views for society?
Well, it's also like when you get married and your wife is religious and you're not, there comes the conversation of baptizing the child. And you have to make concessions, right? Because like either you have your way or she has her way. And since I don't believe, I don't see a problem with believing. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to baptize the child. And we had this conversation.
Especially considering that the baptizing parties in the Orthodox world are actually quite fun. So.
Well, yeah, but it's also like her family. You're putting her on the spot. It's like she comes from like a rural family, and explaining to her religious parents like, "Oh, we're not going to baptize the child because we're atheists." I mean, that would be horrifying for them.
Yeah, so it's essentially a keeping the peace.
Yeah. Appeasement.
Not necessarily, although yeah, I guess you could phrase it like that. Although I suppose you're not at war with your extended family, so
No.
the word appeasement involves some sort of a mortal conflict, and I think that's
Well,
not
no,
the
but like
case.
if they were to find out that I'm an atheist, it would probably cause
That would
some
probably
sort of
depress
conflict.
them
Yeah.
a little bit, but on the other hand, I suppose they would also get over it pretty fast.
Yeah. They're kind of open-minded, as open-minded as Romanians go. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, well, I've been with
They would definitely be upset. Yeah.
I've been with the same woman for 15 years, and of course her mother is deeply religious, and
Did she find out that?
yeah, of course, pretty fast actually, and because I made no secret out of it.
You were like Ioan Iliescu,
Yeah.
liber cugetător.
No, because Ioan Iliescu has some problems with the church. I don't. But on a more serious note, she needed about 3 months to get over it. So, generally speaking, we city dwellers in Romania tend to look down too much upon our rural fellow citizens. But they can be remarkably easygoing if you just treat them as humans rather than...
Well, I'm in a rural place now, so I guess I'm not a city dweller anymore.
Yeah, you're not anymore, but you've grown up in a
Yeah.
city just like I did, and we city dwellers tend to be a bit classist.
Different mentality, yeah.
Yeah, and we tend to look down on the rural people much more often than we should. Tell me about the localizing scandals. I've
Okay,
seen
so
you very busy with that topic, which to me sounds like very remote and niche.
I mean, it is remote and niche. Not everything.
But I've made subtitles for a living, so
Yeah.
I can empathize both with the writers and with the consumers.
Yeah,
you argue mostly from a consumer's rights, consumer's perspective, and you say, well, stop changing the meaning, the fundamental meanings of my favorite shit that is in a language that I don't understand, right?
So you're right. It's not a big thing, right? It's just entertainment. But I guess like the new left-leaning ideology in the United States is that entertainment needs to be completely co-opted by the woke ideology, for the lack of a better term, so that you get to feel as an atomized individual. If you support anything populist movement-like, you feel alone because everything you watch.
That's the purpose of propaganda.
Yeah, like whether you watch a football game, whether you watch Netflix, Disney, like everyone tells you that populism is evil, it's fascist, it's right, wrong. So anime was like one of the last places where you could actually get some conservative messages. Messages like...
Conservative compared to the woke standard.
Well, family is important, hard work is good, loving your country and being patriotic. Basically...
Heteronormativity is a good idea.
Heteronormativity is a good idea. Romance between a man and a woman exists,
which is a radical idea.
Like all of these things are in anime, which is why like a lot of people are gravitating to it. So this upset a lot of ideologues and a lot of activists from the smaller circles, like not mainstream activists, but like
the non-systemic left.
The non-systemic left, yes. And they initially tried to convince the anime producers that they're racist and evil, and
I'm sure that went out well with the Japanese.
Yeah, they didn't give a fuck, right? So what they did instead is they infiltrated the localization companies. And the localization companies would change the meaning. Like, for example, you watch Dragon Ball or something? All right, you would have like an anime between two characters. And one character would call the other one an asshole. And the localizer would say like, oh, you cisgender, misogynistic pig, Trump supporter, MAGA hat, right? Like they would just change the subtitles, completely perverting their meanings and using feminist buzzwords, right? People got upset. So the localizers started giving sass to people on Twitter. And they were saying, oh, you just don't like me because I'm a strong woman, that strategy which got nerfed in the meantime.
And the answer to that would be yes. Now fuck off.
Yeah, and then you get banned from social media because that's
not on Twitter.
Now no, but back then yes. And it's becoming more and more pervasive to the point where now you have like AAA companies that make video games in Japan, and they're saying that we're very concerned with our depictions of breasts because this is what we're getting from our Western localizers. They're saying that we need to make breasts shorter. We need to make sure that the skirts don't go too far, and it's becoming like what we saw in the West back in the day.
Right, so essentially let's make anime more approvable for a conservative Saudi imam?
Yeah, I mean, the recent scandal, there's many content creators which are coming out ever since Vice released an article. It won the Pulitzer Award.
Didn't Vice go bankrupt?
But before it went bankrupt, like the last hurrah, they won a Pulitzer.
Right.
And the article basically said that the anime is pedophilic. Now there is a subgenre of anime which has like actual anime little girls, and there is pornography there. It's illegal in some countries like France, UK. So they're trying to portray as that is defining anime. But in reality, what they are doing is they're attacking anything that has to do with high school romance. So commercial animes, mainstream, nothing pornographic, nothing that would cause any issues. Like Sailor Moon, My Hero Academia, like things that has to do with romance between a guy and a girl.
Well, Sailor Moon had lesbians in it as well.
Yeah, but they don't care, right? Because Sailor Moon...
Not for ideological reasons. I mean, if I remember correctly, it fit the plot. So, but the game was 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, but their argument is that Sailor Moon was like 16, I think.
Yes.
And Mamoru is 18, or he's in university or something, right?
So?
It's pedophilia.
No, it's not.
No, but that's what they say,
right?
So they're using the same argument as racist and sexist. And they will say, oh, My Hero Academia, it has like, it's pretty much like Marvel with superheroes, but they're in high school. So they're saying because they're underage, because they're 16, and some of them are even 15, and they have revealing outfits, like they have cleavage, they have a dress, it's pedophilic.
No, it's a cartoon, first
They-
of all. And
they
second
don't-
of all, even if they were real people, that would be perfectly legal in Germany, in Hungary, in Romania, in Spain, and most of Europe, actually.
Yeah, but it's like the accusations of sexism and racism.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be true.
It doesn't
just
have
has
to be true.
stick.
You just have to repeat it until it sticks, and no one likes to be labeled a pedophile.
Right, right. Yeah. And
So-
it's definitely worse than being called a racist.
Yes, and it does seem to actually start working with the Japanese people. Like they're actually affected by it. They didn't care about sexism and racism, but now that this accusation is starting, and I think like even Visa and MasterCard are starting to balk under the pressure. Like they're making some changes. There was a website Pixiv, it's very popular for Japanese artists, and it's starting to like reduce its terms of service because of the pressure from the card company. I do think like we will notice the wokeification of Japan, which is sad because again, like everything else is woke. Like Japan was the only place that was promoting culture, which was a little bit different, and you still had some quality entertainment from there. Not a big deal, I know. It's like it's not something world changing, but if you're a fan of anime, it is depressing. Again, they're attacking commercial shows. Like we're talking about My Hero Academia. It's bigger than Marvel right now. A lot of merchandise. I mean, if I were to show you a picture of it, you probably saw it
Yeah,
somewhere.
probably saw it. I just
Yeah.
didn't connect it with. Yeah.
So they're very disingenuous, but it is what it is. I mean, left is going leftist.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I also understand the localizers argument, not in an ideological sense, but in the sense, again, I made subtitles myself. So when I made subtitles, for instance, from Serbian movies, well, that was easy when subtitling them into Romanian because it's a very similar culture. But when I made subtitles from American movies, I could just use the literal translation, but then that would not convey the meaning.
Yeah, but that's not what they're doing.
Yeah, so...
And take into account, France has its own localizations. Romania has its own no problems, right? It's just the American branch.
Right, right.
So they're genuinely like trying to insert ideology and pervert the meaning of... Like if they don't like the fact that a trans person is misgender or something, they don't add that in. Right, like they're making sure that all the jokes are made for a modern audience.
So it's not just adapting the jokes and the context to the local context. It's also perverting them ideologically.
It's only perverting the idea. Right. So like it's not like calling ramen soup or something like that. No, it's like inserting just flat out ideological beliefs. And they're proud of doing it. Like they go on Twitter and they boast about doing it.
Well, and can this be solved via market means? I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a finite number of Japanese speakers. You could create your own localizing studio that is not woke, right?
Right. The problem
is that doable?
I mean, it is, but the problem is that the people who want to support the studios, right? So you have the anime studio. Now, of course, there are ways you can obtain the content and with fan subs, right? But then you don't support the studio, you don't give money to the studio. So like people who are fans and they want more of the same, they have to support the studio to keep creating anime.
No, you buy it, the original, but you buy the subtitles from someone else.
I mean, sure, like you can do that. The problem isn't about the subtitles, because that is easily fixable. It's the morality of the issue. And it's the fact that most of the people who watch anime don't do it because they like anime. They do it because the West is shit. And the reason the West is shit is because of people like the localizers. And if I can avoid putting bread on their table, it makes me more happy.
Yeah, of course. Divestment is just as important as investment. Of course. But what I'm saying is that why not go one step further and just compete against those who are shit by creating better
I think the reason they do business with these localizers is because the anime streaming service for the West has been monopolized. So you have, I think, like one website, it's called Funimation. And if you want to work with Funimation, I think working with a localizer smooths things over.
Right.
So
they have their own separate grifts and understandings.
Yeah.
Right. But can it be not possible to just stream it straight out from Japan, from their own studios, without going through one of the gatekeepers in the West?
I don't think many people do that. I wouldn't even know. You'd have to pay in yen, I think. I mean, it's probably possible, but it's
how difficult can it be to have a website in English hosted in Japan, and you can pay in yen with a Revolut card or with any other card, really? I mean, the conversion is automatic. It doesn't necessarily have to be...
I don't know. I mean, it's probably possible. It's just that most people don't do it out of convenience, I think. It's kind of like, you have Rumble and you're wondering, it's like, why is everyone still watching YouTube? I mean, it's just a click away, but it's convenience, I guess.
Yeah, well, I don't trust Rumble, so I don't.
You don't trust Rumble?
No. First, because it's Canadian formed, so that's one.
You trust BitChute, don't you?
No, I don't trust BitChute. I trust BitChute to the extent that I'm not removing my channel from there. But considering how they behaved with me as a paying customer for several years, I stopped being a paying customer.
I speak with the CEO.
Yeah, but there's always the issue that upload takes forever and it still hasn't been fixed. Even though under so much time with so much income stream, that should have been fixed. Synchronizing between channels sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. And there's no rule on... sometimes it's because the video is too long. Sometimes it's because the video is too short. Sometimes it's because potato.
Yeah.
And at some point I'm like, okay, enough. There's only so much that ideological commitment.
So which website do you trust?
Well, neither, quite frankly. That's why I started distributing some of my shows straight up via torrent with my own servers. Especially everything that is paywalled, it's paywalled straight up with my server. I trust my infrastructure because if it is mine, physically mine, in my basement, then it's mine. There is no such thing as censorship on my server unless I decide it.
Well, I think maybe if you piss someone off, you can get like the domain pulled out or something.
Yes, but good luck changing. Even if you can change the IP, I can dynamically change bounce between domains.
Yeah.
And it's that's why people like me, my age, have been working in technology for so long. That's why when we say it's uncensorable, this is exactly what we mean. If we own our own infrastructure, then it is uncensorable. But yes, if your reliance is on a third party, whether it's Google or Rumble or whatever, of course it's not uncensorable. It's reliant on that owner's views. That's why Odyssey, for instance, the website is censorable, but the protocol behind it is not. It's just that how many people know how to use the protocol behind it, which is very autistic and difficult. But yeah, whatever. So there's that. But the reason I'm asking is because these things seem to acquire a lot of attention. Each individually, no, as you admitted, it's not a big deal. Okay, whatever, some localizers. But if you add them up, all of them, although they're not connected, because it's not the same people running these things, they're pretty independent because they're non-systemic. But if we could farm the attention that these things attract and use it for political energy, that could become relevant. Why isn't that happening?
There's a lot of suppression on social media. Like if you start talking about it and you get to political, the algorithm doesn't ban you, but it suppresses your channel. There's also, at this point, not the same novelty like during Gamergate, when a lot of people who never got into politics were wondering why are people fucking with our video games. Now people know it's okay, well, it's the left, they fuck with everything, so like this is what they do. People feel a lot more defeated. They don't see a win. They don't see like any reason to try and fight something that they don't feel like they can win it. There's also the ESG funds as well. It's like you can't really convince a company to like not make cheap loans as long as they virtue signal a little bit.
The raised interest rates have started convincing companies to...
Sure, but I'm curious, even with the raised interest rates, I mean, they still have ESG loans, right?
Fewer and fewer, and at higher interests and more difficult to access, because whatever the interest rate is risen, it affects all sorts of accreditation, not just ESG.
But I've been told a lot of ESG just changed their name, so now it's not ESG. It's
not called ESG.
It's green energy.
Right.
Yeah.
But they still can't work around the Fed interest rate. They still have to take that into account.
If everything is high, right? I agree. Isn't ESG still the lowest of the high?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the recent numbers.
That's
it should be. But
that's the whole point of it, right? It's an ideological loan, and you have to make it enticing, because otherwise, why would people?
Yeah, if it's the similar as others, I'll take the others that don't have ideological.
Like this was the whole thing with ESG. It was the ideological part, and this is why a lot of companies were like virtue signaling and pretending to be woke. Like for instance, Blizzard, it's mired in sexual controversy as a company, but it's got a high ESG because they remove sexist jokes from their video games, and they remove the sexist depictions, and they lecture
that
their
means no
gamers.
women in their video games, right?
There is a trend now in Western gaming to make women look like men, very androgynous.
As I said, no women in
Yeah,
the
no,
video
no women in the video game. Yeah, you're not a gamer, but you're familiar, right? Like you see
Yeah,
the
I'm
picture.
familiar with the. I've seen some drawings and some examples from past and present, and I'm like, well, that's not a woman. But that's okay. I don't buy their product, so I'm not particularly affected.
Yeah, I think it's like a demonization of young men, to be honest.
In a way, you know.
Yeah, like every man when he gets to his puberty, he starts looking around and exploring, and what they're basically trying to say is that if you like sexy women, there's something inherently wrong.
With you.
It's
Right.
pathological. Yeah, like they managed to connect the male gaze to rape, pretty much, right? So and toxic masculinity.
Right.
So instead of like looking at that, you got like all these LGBT programs, you got Drag Kid Story Hour, you got like all these rainbow and stuff. And this is exciting, it's nice. Why do you go for something boring and dangerous like the male gaze? It's kind of like, the Americans really hate the gay conversion therapy. And I genuinely don't know it because we never had it here in Romania, right? I heard it was pretty awful, so I looked into it. And one of the ways they could do it is like they would have a gay person, show them like gay images, and then apply electric shock when the gay images come in. And then they would show them straight images and not apply the electric shock, right? And it's kind of the same what they're trying to do now. It's like if you're a young man and you like heteronormativity, so you like sexy women or anime, they try to use social stigma and shame, and they're using like all of these labels. But if you're like a person that comes out as trans or you're
There's positive rewards.
there's positive rewards and encouragement, and it's kind of hard not to notice. And this is why I got involved, because I have a son on the way, and like just having a teenager which is 16 and wants to watch something like American Pie or something with hot women, that's not pathological, that's not wrong, that's perfectly normal and healthy.
But have you noticed that this shit doesn't work on continental Europe for the most part? I mean, they try it, but it just doesn't have the same profound effect.
Which, like the pathologizing of the male gaze? I don't...
France still remains a very sex-positive country to this day, despite the fact that they have a much more global homo political party in power than, the West Democrats are still far right compared to La République En Marche, and especially La France Insoumise, right? And you have a lot of global homo political parties that are either in power or the leader of the opposition in other places like Portugal or Spain or so on. And yet, the countries continue to remain far more sex positive than the Anglosphere.
I think the Anglosphere was always sex negative.
Well, we're all sex negative, but to various degrees.
Yeah, the Anglosphere was like incredibly sex negative, right? So I don't know like what type of entertainment France is producing. I'm sure they're producing something, but it's not popular enough to get worldwide attention, right? Like French movies. Like I'm sure there are, probably. Wasn't
but since the times of Louis de Funès, they haven't gotten global.
Yeah, there's some German films on Netflix, I guess. But when it comes to video games, like France, they have some very paused video game companies. They are doing the exact same stuff. As for the people, I don't know. The people themselves, like if they're sex positive or negative, I guess like the French culture can be more open-minded. Depends on which neighborhood you're in, if it's Islamic or not.
Not just that, but think about it. The idea of having the official mistress of the president. Americans can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
Whereas in France, Emmanuel Macron is the first president in the last 50 years who hasn't had an official mistress.
I didn't know about that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Right? Even though his wife is like 40 years older than him. He's odd as well, but in a different way. And this doesn't create a scandal in France. Never. It's at best a subject of jokes for tabloids.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much it. It's not a scandal. A Monica Lewinsky scandal.
I remember the Monica Lewinsky scandal.
Would not be possible in Romania or in France.
I was getting into politics at that age. I think it was like when I was 14 or something, and I was like, why the fuck do they care? It's like, what does this have to do with policy? Like, how does how does the president getting his dick sucked have to do with like the budget and the military strategy? Like,
Speaking of which, I mean, as much as we hate to admit it, I mean, both Democrats and Republicans hate to admit it, but the presidency of Bill Clinton was also the only one in living memory where the budget was balanced. I mean, it was quite a successful presidency. Sure, he was forced by a Republican Congress, and that's why the Democrats don't brag with that performance. But nevertheless, it is true. So, he got taken down by a blowjob. I mean,
it's interesting that, you probably follow American politics. Did you know that decency is on the ballot?
Yes.
And they have good sex in the Senate. They had la cocaína in the White House.
Yeah, I've seen the video where they. I mean, I suppose homosexual sex in the parliament, we didn't have that in Europe, or at least I don't know.
No. You know what I think that is? A blackmail tape.
Oh, of course it's a blackmail. That's clear. But the question is who made it and for what purpose?
For what purpose? Yeah, but it's 100% a blackmail tape.
Of course.
There is no other reason why you take it up the ass in the Senate.
Yeah, of course. And especially make sure to have the video.
Yeah, like that, because I was wondering as well. It's like, okay, so they couldn't hold it in. Like, they had to do it in the Senate. Like, maybe it's a fetish or something to do it in public, right? To risk getting caught. But why would you film it?
No. Because, sex in the parliament has happened before in multiple European parliaments, but gay sex, I don't remember. Maybe it happened and I just missed it.
Did we have sex in European parliament?
In the European Parliament in Brussels, no. But in the French Senate it happened, in the Dutch Senate it happened.
How did it get caught?
Well, it got caught because someone, usually the cleaning lady or some staffer, got
and she went like gasp.
Yes, but then there is no video about it. There's talk about it, and usually one or both of the parties involved admitted that, well, it happened. So what?
Yeah.
But it didn't create a huge scandal. That's what.
Interesting.
That's my main point. President Băsescu, for instance, it's a known thing that
with Elena.
he would shag his mistress on the presidential desk. And there's multiple people who got into the presidential office right during the middle of the action. I mean, nobody ever denied it. And it never was a scandal. In fact, the guy got re-elected on the premise that, well, he's just one of us,
He did smack a child as well, and it was the pixel.
And that gained him votes rather than losing him votes. Right?
The blue pixel.
It's the blue pixel, and it's not clear that it actually had smacked the kid and whatever.
Why did people vote for that? Like, did they like the Chad energy or what?
Yes, mostly. I mean, you have to remember, President Băsescu was basically like us. He would drink in public. He would also be serious when needed, but he would also make colorful jokes when necessary. He would say fuck on TV. He would say blow me on TV. He went to Vladimir Putin's home and smack him politically as well, which is something that very few other leaders have done. I mean, ever since Băsescu did it in the State Duma, I don't think there is any other NATO leader who has gotten
What did he do? Because I'm not familiar with
well, basically, the president, at that time, the president of the State Duma, the president of the parliament, of the Russian parliament, was complaining about Romanian interventions in Moldova. And his answer was, Comrade Vladimir Vladimirovich, I have to remind you that Romania, unlike Russia, doesn't have the experience of annexing foreign territories. which, diplomatically speaking, it sounded basically like, mate, go fuck yourself. Right? So basically, Băsescu had all of these. He knew when to be serious. He knew when to be patriotic. He knew when to be not serious. During the New Year's celebration, he would just drink champagne straight out from the bottle. All of these things are made.
I remember Putin slapped Băsescu back, and he was like, "Why don't we sell all our gas to Romania?"
Yeah,
and
that was before. That was before this moment. A few months prior, yes, he was trying to use. By the way, that's when the war, Russia's war against Ukraine started. With that proposal, he was trying to bypass Ukraine for. Transit gas, so he could be able.
So that was like a legit proposal. It wasn't just a joke.
Yes,
like he would have actually wanted to sell all the gas to Romania.
Yeah, or through Romania. Yes, so as to bypass Ukraine to the extent that it was possible. At that time, it was still unclear whether the Nord Streams would be built or not. Much to everyone's surprise, we smelled that sounds like a trap. When Russia makes a good offer, that's probably a trap. So the answer was no, and it's a good thing that it was no. Imagine now what a clusterfuck would have been if some of the Russian logistics would have to go through here under contracts that expire in 2030. That would have been quite amusing.
Pretty much like we would shut it down and the European Union would bail us out, I guess. Like give us money to pay the Russians.
Yes, but you had no idea whether that would be possible when Putin made that proposal. So the safest bet was to just say no. Nevertheless, Basescu was very degenerate by U.S. standards.
US standards, yeah.
Especially in terms of this sexual morality thing. And I use the scare quotes because I really don't see it as sexual morality. I see it as the frigid's dictatorship, really. So from that perspective, he was pretty degenerate. But by European standards, he was nothing special.
Speaking of the pipeline, how do you think Germany will react after the war? I mean, they blew up their Nord Stream pipeline.
Depends on who will be in power.
Do you think they can do anything to the Americans?
No.
Probably like trust them less, I guess.
Yeah, but it depends on who will be in power. If the next party in power will be the Green Party, they'll probably not give a shit at all. If the next party in power will be SPD, they'll probably just trust them less but not say much. If the next party in power will be AFD, they'll try to throw a show about it. It really does depend on who will be in power. There's a lot of factionalism within the German electorate and the German political class. So, well, it will depend. But
it was an interesting move from the Americans to blow up that pipeline.
It worked. It got Germany less invested into ignoring Russia's crimes, so it worked. Whether it will turn out to be a good idea over the long run, your guess is as good as mine. It really does depend on how the German industry evolves, how the political stage
will they try to repair it?
I don't know. It also depends on how the political situation in Russia evolves, obviously. Because, if 20 years from now Russia is a different kind of dictatorship, I don't expect to be democracy in Russia. But if it's a different kind of dictatorship, let's say one with a bigger smiley face and more friendly to the West.
Like China?
No, China doesn't have a smiley face and it's not Western friendly. No, I'm thinking more like, Turkey, for instance, or
Saudi Arabia.
Or Saudi Arabia, yes. So if you get something like that in Russia, then of course, let's fix the pipeline and let's let the gas flow. But if it remains a very similar regime to the Putinist one, then it will have to stay down for much longer, in which case there will be other changes. But going back to the morality, so I can finish the...
Sorry, yeah.
It's more like a social temperance movement. Have you heard about the social temperance movement?
What are they with feminists? And,
it was an alliance between feminists and fascists. The Union of Fascist Women, I'm serious about this.
No, I know, yeah.
About 100 years ago, and they had a similar problem. Too many teenage girls with cleavage. The age of consent is too low. At the time, it was just the same as in Europe. Nowadays, that's a...
Yeah, the Americans are now obsessed with the age 18, right? So, again, going back to anime, they have like this hentai, which is pretty much like pornographic depictions of sex. And there's the concept of loli, which is like prepubescent teenage girls, right? So many people find it vile.
Prepubescent or teenage?
Prepubescent,
okay.
Right. So many
so
people...
that's straight up pedophilia.
Yes, many people find it disgusting and vile, even though it's just cartoons, right?
The U.S. law has, I think it's called the Protect Act, that basically incriminates...
In the U.S., no, it's legal in the U.S.
Really?
Yes, like people argued over the internet. And as long as it's just drawings and they're not like photorealistic depictions of children, right? So it's just like doodles.
Oh, right. Okay, fair enough.
Then they're fine. But in other countries, not so much. So in France, for instance, in Canada, But like, again, they're not talking about those, right? Like they use that as the argument in order to jump over and say, well, even if it's like a 16-year-old girl, it's still a minor. And in a cartoon format, it's usually difficult to differentiate. I mean, it can be a girl that has like massive tits, or got big plump ass. And apparently, if you like that and she's wearing a revealing clothing, they will consider that a loli. And it's literally the same.
Yeah, so a 6-year-old is the same as a 16-year-old.
Yes, like they're basically making the argument that even if it's a cartoon character and it's 17, and it's not even in a pornographic setting, but as long as she is depicted, they call it sexualizing, right? So as long as she's got cleavage, she's got like a skin-tight suit, or she's doing anything remotely sexual, then it's the same like the same person that's masturbating to like the...
Right. So it's an equivalent of as if the character would be 7 and therefore haram.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's a retarded argument.
Yeah, but like it's difficult to defend because they'll say, oh, so like you're defending pedophilia. It's like, so you're into 17-year-old girls now.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but if you say that, You know, Eric July said that, and he actually lost a lot of fans. Like it's
Well, fuck the fans. See,
you
this
can't
is
really
the
because
liberating thing of being me.
yeah, I know, but like. It's one thing when you say, yeah, I'm racist, right? It's another thing when you say, yeah, I'm sexist, and it's a whole other thing when you say, yes, I'm into 17-year-old girls, for Americans.
Right.
Here in Europe, I mean...
17-year-olds are illegal in every single country of Europe.
Yeah, I think like
single.
I think 16
Yeah,
is
no,
generally accepted.
Ireland, I think, has the highest age of consent, and it's 17. That's what I was thinking.
Like here, it's 5-year difference, I think. So like if she's 16, they changed the law. I keep hearing it when
if it's over 16, then it can be any age difference. But if it's between 13 and 16, it has to be a maximum of 5 years difference.
Really?
Yeah,
they keep saying on the radio, it's like the age of consent difference with a minor and the...
Yes, but minor in the context of the age of consent
it's
law,
16.
it's 16, yes.
Oh, I see.
So
I didn't know that.
it used to be 15, no other exceptions. That's how it used to be. 15 upwards, doesn't matter the age difference, that's the only line. Now it's 2 lines. It's 16, 1 line, and it's no exceptions and the limits from there. And if it's under 16,
I mean, that's reasonable.
It's reasonable.
Yeah,
it's basically a Romeo and Juliet law.
Yeah, I never looked into it because like I'm married, so I don't care. But like when I was in law school, it used to be exactly as you said, with the exception of perversions, right?
Yes.
So it had to be like just normal vanilla. Like if you put her finger up your ass, you're raping her. Right?
Yeah, well, but of course it had to be a prior complaint. And even the old law had some exceptions for situations between 13 and 15 in certain situations. Because, and the reason that those exceptions existed is because there still are, but although rarer today, there used to be cases, especially among the gypsies, yes, although not just among the gypsies.
They're like 7-year-old marriages and stuff, right?
Well, no, for those were never legal. But for instance, 14-year-olds getting pregnant by 15-year-olds.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had that at the hospital, those cases.
And both of the families were okay with that. Now, you cannot have an America-style law that basically incriminates both of them when, well, no harm, no foul at the end of the day.
Yeah, they're getting married, so like that's the vision.
Yeah, so that's why there were those kinds of exceptions which have been grandfathered into the new law as well, precisely because those cases haven't gone away. And unlike Americans, we don't have this obsession.
Yeah, like if as you're saying, one is 14, the other is 15. Like, is the 15 the pedophile, or like how do you...
Yeah, it's ridiculous to think like that. And
it's the cultural norms as well. But do they still exist? Do they?
Yeah, they still do happen. A lot rarer than 20 years ago, but they still do happen, and they're still not a crime. And it's a good thing that they're not a crime. If nobody
do you arrest the children or like?
No, of course not. There is permanent jurisprudence on that from 10 years ago, I think.
I heard that what is a crime is, and a lot of people don't know this, but like you have a high schooler, like a kid that's 15, and she sends like news to her boyfriend. Like apparently that's child porn.
Yes.
And they actually do end up going to court.
Yes. Yeah, that is a crime everywhere in Europe and in the United States. Sexting is a huge...
Yeah, because like usually you don't expect that it's actually the victim that's the one creating
Yes. Because when the child pornography laws were written, they were written with the context of 1991, 1992.
Where not everyone had the camera.
Yes, and they were written in the context of, you had in the Netherlands, child porn was sold on the display.
Jesus.
Yes, they are the last ones in Europe to make child porn illegal. So that's when the laws were written in most of Europe. Around 91, 92, are like, we don't want to do that. That would be haram. And of course, not everyone had a camera. And even those who did, most of the people who had a camera were adults. So it was okay. It was
because that's what you think when you hear about it, right? Like someone with the camera films it, right? An adult film. But like I was surprised because I read it in I think it was in Evenimentul Zilei. The fact that many young girls end up in court, and I was like, how the fuck do girls end up? And then you read the article, and it's like because they take pictures of themselves.
Yeah, they filmed. Yes.
Yeah, and then they send it to their boyfriend, and they both are guilty.
Yes.
Like him for possessing and
most of the time the court basically slaps them on with a warning, and that's pretty much it.
They admit their guilt. Yeah,
thank God we're not the United States where we don't have mandatory minimum sentencing, and therefore common sense is allowed to prevail. And obviously in such a situation, well, there is no criminal gang behind. nobody was actually harmed by it. Usually both of the what do you call them, characters in the movie, I guess.
No, it's interesting
usually they're both minors.
Yeah,
right?
She's the victim, and at the same time she's the perpetrator.
Yes. So in such a situation, rigidly enforcing the child pornography law would be wrong. Right, it would be morally reprehensible.
Yeah, no, imagine your daughter going to prison because she
took a picture of herself blowing her 17-year-old boyfriend.
No,
right?
Not even blowing, just nude.
Or just taking a picture alone in a room.
Yeah. In the bathroom, usually. Yes. It's how it's done in Romania, right? Like, pizzipoanchili.
Yeah, everywhere, basically. I mean, there was examples.
No, there was like when high five was a thing.
That was
every single girl,
ago.
like, because when I was in high school, every single girl was like taking pictures in the bathroom, right? In the grandmother's bathroom.
Yeah, usually those guys. There was a separate website with that would catalog them and rank them according to...
Yeah, make fun of it.
pizzipanka.com, yes. And that one would rank them from the worst to best.
Yeah, it was like...
A lot of them were minors.
Well, I don't know. I was 16.
Yeah.
But they were like on High Five. It was like the Facebook of Romania. And it was like public, right?
Most of them were public. Very few profiles were private.
They were putting it on public profile.
Yeah, they would also be pretty proud of them. Now, of course, most of them were not sexual in nature, but some of them were.
No, I've never seen any sexual in nature.
But some of them were.
No, it was like they would make a kissy face. We call it the duck face,
the
right?
duck face, yes.
Yeah, they would make the duck face in their grandmother's bathroom, and it was funny because you see the toilet behind them.
Yes. But then again, applying rigidly the American-style law to such situations, that would mean we have to jail all of our teenagers. And it's not just in Romania. I mean, in the Netherlands, for instance, especially from the 9th grade, although sometimes from the 7th or 8th grade, there is a free condom machine on the hallway of the school.
Well, that's a good thing, yeah.
I agree it's a good thing, but Americans are terrified when I tell them this. Because they're, oh my goodness, but... And I'm like, no, we admit that teenagers have sex. That's just, it is what it is. You may not like it.
I actually had like this conversation with the leftist who was, trying to compare cheerleading with Drag Kid Story Hour.
Oh, come on.
And he was like, well, Drag Kid Story Hour is sexual, right? So is cheerleading. And I was like, yeah, but there's a difference because cheerleading is for teenagers between themselves. Like, they're not cheerleading for the teacher. They're not cheerleading for the parents. It's like a teenager cheerleading for another teenager. Drag Kid Story Hour is an adult dressed in the same thing that they dress in an adult club, coming in front of children.
Yeah,
like that is
a much fairer comparison would be the beauty pageants, which is
that's literally what I said. And I said, like, ask any conservative person you want, and they will find beauty pageants disgusting.
Yes. I mean, that's a fair but cheerleading, I don't think so. I mean, that's...
No, or like prom, right? Or beauty competitions. Like, I had the beauty competition in 9th grade, and I was to an evangelical school, right? And you had the girls coming up with cleavage and very revealing dresses and attires. But again, it's teenagers doing it for other teenagers. It's not like teenagers doing it for their parents or for the teacher, or and this is like normal in Europe. Yeah. But in America, even in America, I think like cheerleading is acceptable.
Cheerleading is still acceptable, yes, but others not so much. I mean,
a beauty competition in 9th grade?
I think they're slowly phasing those out. Now, admittedly, some of them are quite disgusting, so maybe some of them should go out.
What, like the beauty competition?
Yes, but others, again, it sounds to me that they're being excessively puritanical. I suppose the good news is that at least that mentality just doesn't seem to extend. Even though we're all living in America, in many ways.
Yeah.
That part of the American mentality doesn't seem to expand. Whenever it hits continental Europe, we're like, mate, no.
The thing that I find bizarre, though, right? They're freaking out about 16-year-old anime girls that are dressed provocatively. Like, that is just over the top, right? But you have Twitch, you have OnlyFans, you have like all these places where like actual women...
Hell knows how many minors are on OnlyFans. I'm pretty sure there are quite a few.
There may be, yeah. I know that Twitch was trying to bury a scandal where minors were buying bits with their mom's credit cards to spend on e-girls. There's even like this thing where if you say, like, why do women in video games look like shit? Like, why can't you make them sexy? It's like, oh, if you want sexiness, just go watch porn. So you're basically saying, instead of like playing a video game with fictional characters, I should encourage a real woman.
Yeah, I should encourage
exploitation. Exploitation of someone's daughter. It's a big take. What can I say? But I also noticed they never complain about male characters, right? So like you have God of War, there's Kratos with big pecs.
Over-sexualized male characters are still okay.
Yeah, that always have been okay, right? So even in anime.
So
like,
what you're saying is we live in a patriarchy. Men are allowed to be sexualized.
yeah, literally. But like even in anime, like if there's like a minor that's a man, they don't care. Like they're not upset if a male character is shirtless or anything like that. It's just when the female characters get.
Yeah, so it's a kind of a left-wing puritanism in a way. That's why I compared them with the social temperance movement, because the social temperance movement was also the same. It was very concerned, also leftist, yes, and very concerned with teenage girls, zero concern for teenage boys. Or whatever they were concerned with teenage boys, it was also in relation to how that harms women.
I mean, this is modern leftism, right?
Yeah, but then again, this was 100-something years ago. That's what I'm saying. Before social media, before video games, before...
Yeah, things don't go away. They just come back.
Yeah. So it's basically the same thing. The last time this was defeated was through a world war. Because once bullets start flying out, nobody gives a shit about...
how women dress.
How women dress, or whether that magazine is permitted and that magazine is not permitted. Bitch, we have much bigger concerns right now. So, in a way, probably another world war.
I remember, like, before this whole anime stuff, it's like, oh, if you watch hentai, you're a pedophile. It was, if you play violent video games, you're a psychopath.
You're a psychopath.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, when I grew up, people were shocked of Dragon Ball because it's too violent, and I guess like there could have been like some reason for parents being concerned that the kids may go in the playground and beat each other up or some shit.
But we would do that.
We would do that, yeah.
Anyway.
But like no one
even
was...
before we had access
yeah.
to...
But like no one was concerned about Sailor Moon. It's like, oh, Sailor Moon is 16, and when she transforms, she's got this revealing outfit, and there's panty shots and stuff, because there were. Someone counted it, 135 panty shots over the seasons.
Okay, fair enough.
No one brought it up. No one was shocked about it.
In Romania, that was broadcasted in the middle of the day.
On national television.
On state television, in fact.
Yeah. Well, did you know you're watching pedophilia? And did you know you're a pedophile? It's like...
I don't think I watched the whole episode. I mean, I just didn't like the story. But I know it was being broadcasted because at the time I was doing cable television installation and satellite TV installation. So I would have to check everything works in order. And
you would see Sailor Moon.
I would stumble upon it whenever fixing it. And I'm like, whatever, another Jap thing. But I never thought about it as pedophilia, and I still don't because...
No, but it's like... There was, and my argument was, if you look at American shows, especially TV shows for teenagers, they're always fucking. Like, non-stop fucking, like Game of Thrones. There's fucking. The moment Arya dinged 18, they had the scene with her fucking. In anime, I can't, like the commercial ones, the big ones. Like My Hero Academia, Naruto, Dragon Ball, there's no sex in it. You get some panty shots, you get some humor, and you get some,
sexual innuendo, maybe?
Yeah, sexual innuendo, maybe like a character that's like covering her breast while in a shower or something. But that's it. Like you don't have sex, right? And the Western shows never get criticized. It's just like Japan. I found that interesting.
Well, because those doing the criticism are fucking racists. That's why.
Well, it's also the fact that Japan is beating American culture right now.
Oh, of course.
Like they're decimating American culture.
So do the South Koreans in movies.
Yeah, they started. Yeah.
And not because the South Koreans or the Japs have gotten better. It's just
no, the American has gotten shit.
So worse that it's now a low bar.
Yeah, I was thinking about like what original movies Hollywood made, and I was looking at movies that came out in 2000, 2010. And the movies that came out now, everything is a sequel, everything is a remake, everything is a spin-off.
A prequel.
Yeah, like they don't have the faith in the writers to write something new.
Yeah. I was looking because I just videotaped last week a series about post-communist censorship in Romania. I'm working on it now to put it together with scenes from 2002 with Ralu Filip. You'll get to see.
Do you have the Paraziti?
Of course, and the original cassettes with Paraziti, those that were stolen from the stores.
Well, why did they sing that they got censored?
Well, for instance, in 2002 or 2001, one of their clips was censored because it had 2 punches. Literally, I mean, it had a guy training at a boxing place alone.
And that was too far.
Yeah, that was considered it. So no, we had our moments of puritanism, but the
I
way
didn't know that.
but the way we did it was to defeat them in court and then take them, marginalize them, take them out of the mainstream of society. But the reason I
Didn't
mentioned
one of Parasites end up in jail though? Like Uzi or something?
no, Uzi from BUG got arrested once for a few hours, and then the police figured out, oh my goodness, we just made a huge commercial for these guys, didn't we? And of course they did, and of course they milked the incident, because why not? But the reason I mentioned this is because you said that nowadays everything is a prequel, and therefore everyone else is beating. This is true here as well. Because during the research for this series, I started studying audience reports. So in 2010, Romanian productions would have marginal audiences. Nobody would watch the purported style of TV shows because they were considered shit.
La Bloc?
Yeah, something like that. Those that they make now are still kinda shit. They're slightly better than 15 years ago, but still kinda shit. But today they have enormous audiences. For instance, in 2022, there was a day when 6.7 million people have watched TV in a night, and half of them watched only two shows. Las Fierbinți and the Turkish TV show.
Oh yeah, the one with the...
I don't know which one, but the Turkish...
Suleiman.
I think so,
Suleiman,
but could be that one. I'm not sure. The point I'm making is that at the same hour, there were another 15 TV stations that were broadcasting recent American productions.
No one watches it.
All of those had 0 point something audience. Nobody watches those.
It's shit.
And again, when we're talking 6.7 million people, that's a third of our population in an age where TV is dying.
Yeah.
So it's quite remarkable just how much of a difference. And again, it's not that the Turks or the Romanians have gotten better at entertainment, but our American friends have gotten significantly worse, to the extent that, well, maybe Suleiman Magnifico is not so bad.
It's really not. I mean, my mom used to watch it. I got a couple of episodes. It was quite interesting. The production.
No, I never watched it, but I'm sure the production value is pretty good, because the Turks usually make very polished films.
It actually has women in it.
No, obviously, yeah. So I guess that's the silver lining, isn't it? We're just gonna get our own better, and our own, I mean, in Europe, not just Romanian. And we're just gonna have to start learning to trust our producers a little bit more.
But we do have like some nice one, like Philantropica.
Yeah, but that's 30 years old.
Amintiri din Epoca de Aur.
That one is a bit newer, I suppose. But Philantropica is 30 years old.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's like,
it's good, I'm sure.
Even Americans would appreciate it.
Yeah, they should. Same with the Periculosos Porgesi, which talks about the draft. And in a very mocking way, yeah. But the reason I'm saying is that because when was the last time you watched a Romanian movie at the cinema?
It was called Copilul, I think. It's
Poziția copilului. That's
no, I think it's a guy that drives a car over a child.
Ah, right. Yeah. I remember that one.
So it was actually really good.
Quite good. It was 7 years ago.
Moartea domnului Lăzărescu?
Oh, that's 20 years already. Yeah. By the way, Moartea domnului Lăzărescu is 20 years old, made in 2004. Well, last time I watched a Romanian movie on the cinema was 5 months ago. I watched the one made in Republica Moldova. It's about the Transnistrian War.
Really?
Carbon, yeah.
Does it have good special effects?
No, it's about how the war was perceived at the first village outside of the front line. And it has all of the Soviet era jokes, and it's filmed with the real city hall from those times and the real marshrutkas from those times, and it's just really, really good. Of course, it made a decent amount of money. But I suppose it falls on us, not just us, you and me personally, but us generally, to start supporting a bit more our local productions, because that's the only thing we can really do from outside of from the periphery of the empire.
Yeah, I mean, I always went to the cinema when they made the Romanian movie, and the thing is, like, they don't often air at the cinema, but when they do, I do my best in order to go and see it. Yeah, like most of the Romanian movies are nice because you kind of relate with...
But I'm not talking here specifically about Romanian ones, although of course those are too.
European ones.
But European in general, or even Asian. Let's just divest. Stop paying for crap American movies And use
I haven't gone to an American movie.
and
since
use that
forever.
shekelim to buy tickets to Korean or Turkish.
Like if you want to see how bad it is, look at Wikipedia on the Oscars Best Picture Award, right? And you see Forrest Gump, you see Titanic, you see The Lord of the Rings, like stuff that if you were to watch now, maybe you don't enjoy the movie per se, but like it's definitely entertaining. I mean, you're not.
And it has some production value for sure, and it's at least somewhat original.
And if you look at the ones that Hollywood chose as the best pictures this year or last year or the year before,
I think this year hasn't taken place yet.
Last year or the year before, you don't even know the title. And I guarantee if you watched it, you would probably get bored out of your mind.
Says shit. Thankfully, torrents are still real, so I guess I could do that. I could watch them for free.
No, but it's like...
But some of them aren't even worth pirating.
They're not even worth pirating, It's like, I wouldn't even pirate you.
For real. But by the same token, nobody watches the Oscars anymore either. So...
The slap was very popular. And I told them, it's like, look, if they were to, like, actually plan the slap...
Oh yeah, when Will Smith slapped someone,
yeah, like that.
Or Ricky Gervais' speech when said, "Just take your award and fuck off." I mean, come on, that was good.
That was good, yeah. But like everyone was like apologizing at the Oscar for the slap, and I'm like, but why though?
It's the only reason
people even know you had the Oscars to begin with.
Yeah, I guess next time around they would have to plan some group sex on the stage or something. I mean,
I don't know. The Senate seems the Senate seems to have that covered. So
they would have to get increasingly ridiculous for anyone to watch. I mean, I remember in the 90s the Oscars were the thing. They would gather 1 billion viewers.
Oh my God! Yeah, like it was in Romania. Like we had
globally they would get 1 billion viewers. Again, that's before YouTube, that's before internet, that's before viral content.
But like in Romania, it was like
they would stay up at 4 a.m. to watch
the Oscars. It's like at 4 a.m. and all the family would wake up and it's like, let's watch the Oscars. I mean, it was a big thing.
Who does this anymore? Nobody.
People avoid it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's the Oscars. Change the channel.
Who the hell cares? Yeah, so, but I guess what I'm trying to wrap up the video is to wrap up in a positive note. As mainstream-ish, or Hollywood-ish, Hollywood-centered culture is obviously decaying, other things that are not necessarily significantly better, but at least not as bad, are rising up to take their place. So in a way, attention being limited, it just gets redistributed to other things, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Would it? Sure, that would mean some American actors would lose their jobs, but is that such a bad thing?
No, it's more like, I kind of like the old American movies, I don't enjoy seeing them dying, but I mean, they're doing it to themselves, and
nobody's forcing them.
Yeah, nobody's forcing them to make shit productions.
Fair enough. Alrighty, I guess that will be pretty much it. Let's just switch the cameras.
Right.
And we'll see about that. Alright, thanks for watching. Cheers.